assist or support you with that ride, because I love for human beings, for me, is what it's about. It's not about the money. There's tons of money out there. There's trillions of dollars. There's all kinds of money out there. So to me, it's not about the money. It is about human lives, touching people's lives at the deepest core. Not changing them, but really, literally transforming them. Best of success to each and every one of you, and I'll make myself available for that. Robbins talks about lag time. There was the lag time because I was a little bit slower, so it kind of caught up a little bit slower for me. But once it catches up, it really catches up, and you feel really great at that catching up. But most people don't notice or pay attention to the lag times. They think, oh, it's not working. You get all confused that it's not working, and But to know that it is working is the key. So what I would say would be probably the most valuable tool, like if I could say, well, what's the most valuable tool? The most valuable tool is I get that nothing is as nothing appears. So I get that there's nothing like as it appears is not as it is. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think it's on drugs. So nothing is as nothing appears. So the Earth right now is spinning how fast? Anybody know? Fast. Like that? Like it's thousands of miles an hour. Like literally, like thousands of miles. Like my car goes like 100 or something or 20, but I don't know. But that's fast. The universe is spinning at thousands of miles, and it's hurling through space. Like it's. But it appears what? Still. So if the biggest thing called the universe is the biggest illusion, that means microscopically, microcosmically, that everything is an illusion. Like everything. And so an illusion is what? That's just something we make up. So like in my marriage, and I say, oh, it's this way. No, that's just the way I'm making it up. In my business, like, oh, it's this way. No, that's just the way I'm making it up. So we can make it up as good or as what? Bad. Depending upon what we're up to. So like humans are always up to something because we're just humans. And humans are always up to something. So if you have kids, they're, right? So I have 3 kids, they're always up to something. And people are just bigger kids. Humans are just bigger kids, bigger clothes, bigger bodies. We're just kids, really. always up to something. So like, what are we up to? So like, based on what we're up to is how we create the conversation. So we structure the conversation based upon what we're up to. We create the conversation based upon what we're up to. We twist the conversation based upon what we're up to. We flip the conversation based upon what we're up to. So whatever you're up to. So if you always want to know how you're looking at things, just see what you're up to. It's real simple. So the key is that in your business, there is, well, that's just the way it is. No one, well, that's just the market. I said, well, there is no such thing as that's the market. There's only a thing called the market. Like what you bring to the market is what you bring to the market. It's like, you know, people say, oh, it's a bad market. Well, you probably bring a bad attitude. People that bring good to the market usually bring a what? A good attitude. So whatever we bring to the market is whatever we're up to. Because there is only a thing called the market. And the great part about the market is we can shift it however we want it, based on what we're up to. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes, great. So that was one thing. That's major. That's one thing I'd say. Because there's no absolute. There's no absolute. So when there's no absolute, you don't get stuck. You only get stuck when you believe that's just the way it is. And in marriages and relationships and business, that's just the way it is. That's just not the way it is. That's just what you're up to, based upon the way you choose to see it. But the great part about the way we see it, we can shift it at any time.
All right, next question.
Yes.
Who's got it? Chris Portera from Dallas.
Hey, Brett. How you doing?
Great. Welcome, Dallas.
Quick question. Other than Mr. Robbins and Robbins Research, who are maybe one or two other people or organizations that you've modeled that you just think have made a tremendous difference in your life?
Sure. Who have I modeled that's made the biggest difference
in your life?
Sure. I used to represent, or not represent, but I used to, when I was out on the road, got really strong building relationships. And you're on the road right now, building relationships. The only reason I sold 525 tickets in a meeting, or in a thing, we sold 100 of those in one meeting. So like, we sold 100 in a meeting. That's pretty exciting. But how do we do it? We build relationships. You know, somebody told me you either have relation dingies or you have relationships. You know, I was like, relationships are more like established. You know, so building this relationship with this company, Primerica Financial Services, they're a pretty large company. They're a $1 trillion company. They've got about 150,000 people in their organization. It's not bad to start. And but the founder of the company, Art Williams, is I'd say he's been somebody that's really impacted me personally, just in terms of the work that I listen to. Because because it's very simple. He's like I'm not one of the fastest, quickest, sharpest, brightest students on the block, and they didn't invite me to any of those really great schools, and I was really, a little slower in grabbing some of the tools along the journey. So I kind of look for some of the other resources that can help me get to those places. I like where he's from too, because he's from a background of, being just, he was a college football coach making $37,000, but now he's a billionaire, all these different things going on. But he talks about being excited. So for me, that's one thing for my own self, is you can have a bunch of skills and a bunch of tools, but if you're not excited, you have nothing. And I know a bunch of people that got a bunch of skills and a bunch of tools, but they're not excited. So for my own self, it's getting myself into that place of excitement. It's really, and Robbins has trained me on how to get into that place. He doesn't really, Art doesn't really teach you how to get there. He just teaches you the philosophy or the concept of get excited, stay excited. Most get there, don't you stay there. The key is get there, stay there. The key is get there, stay there long enough to get the job done, whatever the job is. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I would say he would be a primary, and of course Robbins, and then my coach Dan Lear. And Dan was my coach when I was on the road actually, as an FSR. And so he's really been an instrumental part in my life, in my just everything, I'd say. A couple of those people. So Dan and Art.
Thank you.
My mic? Is it on?
Who's got the next question? Up here, Rich Cohen, coaching sales.
Yes.
I'm just curious too, what your formula was. For example, how many dials did it take to get it? How many connections did it take to get how many appointments? Did it take to get how many presentations? Did it take to get how many closes?
I don't have all those with absolutes. But what I do know is that in my journals, is that Robbins talks about having journals, and journals are important. There's no question about it. And this is fun, and I'm going to share this here with you because it's really exciting. I was going through some of my journals flying over here. But it says it's June 12, 1995. Today was my first meeting as an FSR with Tony Robbins. It's fun. It was in Daly City. City, which I was in San Francisco, I told you when they went, to a company called What a Racket. There were about 10 people. I sold 2 tickets. Equals 20%, equals 20%. Feeling very excited about process. I'm totally on a mission to challenge and assist people in making the necessary changes. At that time, we were talking changes and not transformation. To move forward with their life, to take action at some level. I'm going to get good real fast. I'm on the fast track of about 3 shows daily. We looked at them in shows. Like a Vegas, you know. I really, yeah. It's constant and never-ending improvement. It's about 12:15 a.m. I have a 7:30 a.m. meeting set for an insurance company. My outcome is to go and add sales tools and value and impact the lives of the people I touch. Stay focused and on purpose. I love you, Brett. It's all through there. I love you, Brett. Well, we had, again, if you look at like love, hate, I hate you, Brett. That conversation I kind of got doesn't work really well. I went a long time with that one. So, you kind of turn it. So, but to know definitives and exacts, I would have to go and do some research. But I do have, I did keep things documented along the journey, and we really focused on what was most important, on the elements that were most important. So, like, what we find is that in accountability is that most measure the wrong areas, and they don't measure often enough, or they measure the right areas and not often enough. And so what we'd like to do is measure the right, exact, key, definitive areas and measure them with absolute precision. And absolute precision is really every day. So the only way we got our guy to do 30 loans in 30 days is we don't go, I'm going to go do 30 loans, because it freaks their brain out. Because their brain goes, listen, Dork, you've only been doing 7 a month. How are you supposed to do 30? And their brain says, there's no way you can do that. So, but we do say that you can do a loan a day. That's our philosophy. Our philosophy says a loan a day. Because if you wake up in the morning with an empty orange pail, and you're headed out to the orange orchard, and there's plenty of oranges, and if you come back with an empty orange bucket, you start looking a little silly and foolish. So we get focused on, did you get your orange? Did you get committed and grab that? And if they didn't, we don't get caught up in the conversation or story about why they didn't. We just get caught up into what's going to happen tomorrow, like, what that's going to look like. We'll make any necessary shifts. But appointment sets, tickets sold, meetings run. So we would look at appointments set. So everything was in that light. Are you an FSR or LSR? You do coaching? Right. So you, in your coaching model, I'm sure you have definitives, right? Like a measurable area with absolutes. Like there's these other conversations way out there, but when it's, you on the line, there's certain things that you are responsible for, right? And what are those things?
Well, would be, on a gross number would be the number of strategy sessions set. Well, I'll back up. The number of dials made by my team.
Sure.
The number of strategy sessions set.
So at the end of the day, and again, you have to excuse me for my ignorance because I don't know really what that looks like, but at the end of the day, what does that look like in terms of strategy, in terms of set meetings? Like what would that look like? Like set 5 meetings, 3 meetings, 10 meetings?
Well, I can tell you what the outcome is. The outcome is 5 sessions a day.
Okay, so setting 5 sessions a day?
Exactly.
Okay. So your outcome when you wake up in the morning.
Yeah, we're inside sales. We sell the coaching.
I got it. Sure. So when you wake up in the morning, though, your outcome is 5 coaching strategy
My
sessions.
outcome is to inspire my team to set 5 strategy sessions per person per day, so that then they would have the activity to be able to close 25% of those.
Okay, so at the end of the day, do you hit it?
At the end of the day, not everybody hits it on an individual basis.
Okay.
I track it and make sure that by the
And
end.
you do what?
I track it and make sure that we hit it by the end of the week.
You track it and make sure. Okay, so the real thing is if you don't hit it at the end of the day, you probably won't hit it at the end of the week. That's just my own personal experience. So people, well, I didn't do it today. I go, well, you probably won't do it tomorrow either. And, well, I didn't get to the gym today. Well, you probably won't, based on the odds, you probably won't get there tomorrow either. So, and all that starts to catch up. So the thing is, my guy goes, why did you get alone today? See, what happens is the brain starts getting too far behind. And when the brain starts getting too far behind, the brain says, no way, it's impossible, there's no way, you can't do it. So we must get our one today. We must. Tony taught us back years ago that you must, there's a certain thing. For me, it was to set 3 appointments. Like, to be out there running 2, to set 3, and then, go have ice cream, go for a walk, and go play basketball, and hit your outcomes. So you start to train your brain to hit those outcomes. So whatever those outcomes are, there's got to be a deeper level of must. And what I would invite you to, what I would truly invite you to, is to not have a goal for that. I mean, that's just my own personal conversation. I would invite you to not have a goal for that. Now, that sounds a little bit abstract given the industry that we're in, but the reason I say that is this. Okay, here's a great idea. What's your name? Rich. Rich, okay. So, Rich, real fast, you, out of goals, out of 100%, like all the goals that you set, in all different domains of life, all the goals that you set, out of 100%, what percent do you actually hit, what percent do you miss?
Don't know.
What's that?
I don't know.
Just hypothetically, pull it out somewhere.
Out of all the goals I've set in my entire life.
I mean, just throw it out. You're too conceptual. Just out of all the goals, out of 100%, you hit how many roughly, and you miss how many roughly? 70 up, 30 down, 80 up, 20 down, right? Somewhere around there. Okay, so good, better days, better months. Okay, you have a mortgage?
3 of them.
Oh, 3 of them. You better start hitting your busts somewhere where you're at. Jeez, are you kidding me? Wow, we got 3 mortgages. Okay, so out of 3 mortgages, and let's just take one of them, so we won't get all confused. Out of one of those mortgages, give me the longest length of time you've had the mortgage. How many years?
This current one, 3 years, 5 months.
Okay, so 3 years. So 3 years. So 3 years. So okay, so 3 years. So 3 years times 12 is 36. So 36, we'll say 40. 40 times 2 is 8. So you have 8 lates, roughly, give or take, about 8 lates on that mortgage. Roughly about 8.
Those are one of the goals that I'm 100% on.
I see. So on that one there, so I like to know. So like when I bring out a new coaching client, say for an example, they go, "Oh, my goals are this." I said, "Well, that's really great." I go, "Give me some odds on what those goals look like." People say, "You're really good at what you do." I said, "No, I really believe I bet on the right horse, because if I bet on the wrong horse, I'm not, as a coach, my outcome is to build billboards. I have like no other concerns. I want to build a billboard in the marketplace that says, hey, this is the deal. I work with this guy, and this is what happens." And so I like to know what my odds are as a success coach. What are my odds going to be with this person? So I want to know where they fall with their goals, because they're going to come to me with all their stuff, stories, and drama, and expect to still reach their goals. So I want to know where they fall currently with those goals. So they go, "Oh, I'm 80%. So right now, you have 8 lates. You have 8 lates?
I've never had a late payment on any.
No, that's impossible. There's no way. It's humanly possible, Rich. There's no way. You have a mortgage. You're up 40 months on the deal, like back to 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 back 40 months straight up and down. Are you financially independent, totally loaded, have tons of cash in the bank?
No, but
I mean, pay your mortgage, no big deal. Probably pay it 30 days early, right? No struggle. I mean, you're totally, money's not an issue, no problems.
I've never in my life made a late payment on a mortgage.
Never? That doesn't even make any sense. You mean you've never had even one? That's funny. So your banker has better odds on success than, we'll say, with your own self. Because like with your own self, you're 20% down on your goals, and your banker's got 100% up on those goals. So your banker's got better odds on you than you with you. Wow. I wish I was your banker, right? I mean, really. I wish I was your banker on the deal. Because he's up 100, you're down 20. Wow. So the only reason why you don't is because it's not a goal to pay the mortgage. Oh, it's my goal. What's your goal this month? Oh, my goal. That's not a goal. It's a must. Period. 5. So this 5 that you're talking about today, it's a goal. So 20% of the time, you'll go down, 80% of the time, you'll go up. Give or take somewhere in there. With your mortgage, it's a must, 100%. Boom, 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 boom. Every day, every day, every day, every day, every day. So my guys that work with, when we talk about a loan a day, every day, every day, every day. Don't come back and say you didn't get an orange. Doesn't make any sense. You got an empty bucket, there's plenty of oranges out there. Don't look silly and foolish and come back with some empty bucket when you say you're committed. So at the end of the day, you're up. You follow what I'm saying? Because those 5, that's only one every, give me a break. Are you charging high dollars for those coaching strategies? Are they like thousands of dollars for those coaching strategies? Thousands of dollars? Okay, and you're talking to tons of people, but the real thing is, it's one every 1.5 hours. One, not 100, just one. Like numeric system starts at 1, you're at the bottom. So then we move it up. We're talking just 1.
On top of everything else that's being done, which is including the strategy session.
Okay, well here's the deal. You get your mortgage done. Why? Because it's top priority. It's top priority. So in your industry, you look and go, what's top priority? What's top priority? Setting coaching and strategy sessions is top priority. True or false?
It is. That's the fuel.
That's the fuel, because that's what drives everything else. So if you go defunct there, everything else is defunct. So you just find one area, not 20 areas, find one area that's going to fuel all the other 12. Does that make sense? And at the beginning of the day, you let your guys know this is not a goal today. It's not a goal. Because the real thing is, if you're got like 20%, down and 8% high, the rest of your team as well has an odd in ratio. But the real thing is that must gets hit. Boom, ba-boom, 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 ba-boom. If it's a must, it will happen. If it's a should, it will kind of, sort of, in a way, possibly, maybe, kind of, if it's convenient. And a goal and all that kind of stuff falls kind of into the same realm.
Brett,
Does that make sense?
Brett, we have another question from Wesley Gu over here from Tampa.
Yeah,
You
that
ready
makes
for
sense,
that?
Rich?
Wesley
Did
Gu.
you get that? Great.
Hi, Brett. I'm just wondering, sometimes out on the road, when you're doing a meeting, you're in the zone, you're working with people, you have rapport, you're doing everything correctly, you sell the tickets, then you leave and you sort of leave the zone for a minute, and then maybe a day later, under the 72 hours, you get a call, someone wants to cancel. In the moment, maybe you don't remember that individual person. Do you have any sort of advice for basically reassociating them without you really knowing who they are?
Absolutely. That's a great question. I'm glad you brought that up because, the real thing is I've been out for about 7 years out of this particular model. So, there's a lot of different things that I've learned along the way where I go, gosh, I wish I was doing that back then. Geez, I wish I was, had that technology, or, I wish I was, using email with the capacity and the way in which I use it now today. If it was me personally, now in that particular model, what I would do is once the sale is made, so, my belief is the fortune's in the follow-up, right? So most get caught up in the illusion that the fortune's in the deal. That's not the deal. That's not the big deal. The fortune's in the follow-up of the deal. The fortune's in the follow-up. So, you don't want to get caught up in the illusion the fortune's in the deal, because the follow-up is, the fortune's in the follow-up. So the question is, well, how fast are you going to follow up? Like, how fast does that look like? So if it was me now today in the field, what I would do personally is after that sale's been made, boom, I'm going to be all over them. I'm going to have this beautiful orchestrated email that's going to just, hey, congratulations, you're a leader that just absolutely made a decision. I talked to thousands of people, and you're part of the few who do versus the many who talk. I'm going to really celebrate your success. We're looking so forward to seeing you at this upcoming event taking place. This event will absolutely just transform your life. Most want to change. You're committed to transformation. We're committed to absolutely seeing you and being part of that, with you. So congratulations again. And, we recognize that, we're building our business through referrals and, da-da-da-da-da. I mean, there's so many different things that you can do. Literally, at the end of the day, I have a camera right in front of my desk, so I can just go flip a camera on. I'm putting together a deal, or I'm in the place of putting one together. I'll put the camera on, throw a beautiful little 3-minute video together. I'll send that video off to that person. It freaks them out. They click the link and go, whoa, hey, congratulations on your decision earlier today. Wow, and congratulations, what the heck was that? I mean, he was in the office, now he's on my computer. Really, it freaks them out, right? It's a lot of fun. But it's hard because now they're deep. Now they're kind of tightened in deeper into the deal. So that's a very challenging part, because you get people go, oh, why did I just buy? And they don't even know, because you were all pumped up and they don't even know what you said. They just brought it out check, right? So I mean, really, where am I going? I don't know. So I got to wait for itineraries. They don't even know what they bought. So you follow what I'm saying? So there's a lot of follow-up things that you can do, and you start to look and go, what are 10 follow-up or 5 follow-up things that I can do immediately, like the moment I leave. Like you have an assistant, or you have an on-road somebody of something that, handles that for you, and maybe you're traveling and they just drop an email out and, whatever. But the cool part about emails and HTML and all that kind of stuff, it's fully integrated. I mean, there's so many things you can do that just drives them deeper. And then again, you're being an example in the marketplace, because you want to make sure you blind carbon copy the sales manager, right, on the deal. And there's a lot of things you can do when you leave out of here that sends a message to the sales manager. Hey, again, thanks so much. I'm really excited about having your team with us. And, we're really building our business based, upon our commitment to transforming human lives. And, obviously you guys are da-da-da-da. So, I mean, there's a lot of things you can do to, again, just tighten it up.
Great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, who's got the final question? Scott Goss up there. You got it, Dave?
Can you give us your best closes? Best closes.
Gosh, I just want to
Passionate, excited close.
I haven't done a close in that. I don't even, I'm
Give it an objection.
yeah, that would be better. An objection of, I don't have the money. I would just align with that. Hey, Bob, I can appreciate that. I've been there as well. I'm just curious what would have to happen in order for you to get the money. Or I'm just curious, Bob, if you knew. I mean, if you totally knew. I'm not saying if you kind of sort of in a way possibly knew, but I mean, if you totally knew that by being at this upcoming event that's taking place on, what month was it? July 27th, if you actually knew that by coming up with that money, it would allow you to, transform, or allow you to get all the things that you say that you're absolutely committed to. Based on our short conversation, you say you're committed to this, this, and this. I'm just curious what has to happen, because I can totally appreciate you don't have the money. Hey, Bob, listen, if there's anybody that has to have the money before, I'm one of those people, clearly, and I'm just curious what has to happen in order for you to really stretch out and make that happen. What has to happen? So there's a few definitive type questions you want to ask, or, a great, what has to happen is it's a solution question. So what you get from people is their story, the story of no money, the story of no time, the story of location, the story, whatever their story or drama is. Again, they bring all their dysfunctional stuff to you, and you got to be able to move through and weed through that. That's your, position or lot, that you've chosen here. So you've got to have the best skills and tools to be able to do that. And so your congruency with them in that buttoning it up is really important. Like really important, not like little of importance, but really important. And to be with them in such a powerful way that you get that they have in them already, the ability to come up with those resources. Like you have to believe that they have the ability to come up with those resources. Hey Bob, you're obviously a pretty sharp guy. Obviously, we spent 10 minutes together, you're obviously pretty sharp. I'm just curious, what would have to happen in order for you to generate that money by tomorrow, or by tonight, or within an hour from now, or if there was, a way, what would that way look like? And help describe what that way would look like. But, if there were a way, or I'm not suggesting that you were to come up with the money today, but if there was a way, what would that way look like? Or, if you knew that by being at the event, and the event could transform your whole economic world. Literally transform it, not change it, because, people talk about change and transformation. So, if it could transform, end the trance to what you're up to in life, by being at that event, would you find a way? I'm just curious, would you? Oh, yeah, I'd find a way. Great. What's that way? What would that way look like? Let me assist with. So you partner up to them, period. Nothing less, nothing more. If they say they're committed, you're doing nothing more than partnering up to their commitments. So, I get loan officers, for example, go, well, I'm going to go into real estate offices and find out what they want. I said, I don't give a rat's patoots what they want. I do care what they are committed to, because again, they all want to be richer and better looking. But the real thing is what are they committed to? That's the real thing. Be richer and better looking, hey. So you say, what are they committed to? So you partner up to their commitments. And then based upon their commitments, are you following this? Are you following where I'm at with that? You partner up to that commitment, it's a done deal.
Brett, we have one more
And if you don't,
question.
you're not doing your job.
We have one more question from Roberto Monaco. Here he is, Roberto Monaco.
Right. So I heard about America that you sold 100 tickets for America.
What was that? Hello? I'm sorry, I missed that, Roberto.
Hello?
Yeah. My translation.
Right. I heard you sold 100 tickets for America, correct?
When I sold 100 tickets to Primerica?
Yeah.
I did, yes.
In that site that you sold 500, what specific strategies, or the strategies that you used to sell 500 tickets?
I would say my key thing would be relationships.
Okay.
That would be my major and my follow-up. I'm really
How specifically, because to explain to them, because Primerica is a network marketing company, how specifically?
That what? I'm sorry.
How specifically you sold 500 tickets? Like, how specifically? Relationships, what do you mean by that?
Relationships, by when, if I meet you for an example, out on the streets and you're a sales manager or you bought a ticket, I'm going to start to nourish that. I'm going to start to build that relationship. So I'm going to find the biggest person in that capacity and build a relationship with that person. Because that person is going to get me to other companies. That person is going to get me to other people. That person is going to get me to their sphere of influence. So I'm going to find the biggest dog in school, and I'm going to buddy up or say partner up to that person. Okay. And then we can take on the school. You follow what I'm saying? But if I don't partner up to that person, then it's kind of like them and me, and now we're have this separate thing. But now it's a we because I come over here. So I partner up to the biggest cat in school, and now we can go take on all kinds of things, companies, people, whatever it is, because you're partnered up. You follow? Okay, so you walk into a company, you sell 10 tickets, you have 10 spheres of influence, and each one of those 10 have a sphere of influence around them. And so if they were committed, those 10, that sends you into a sphere of influence of 100, we'll say. And that 100 sends you into a larger sphere and what have you.
Hey, Brett, I think we understand the philosophy what this team, I think, is asking themselves right now is, tactically, what exactly did you do to sell over 500 tickets to a UPW event? Tactically, what were the specific steps? We understand the relationship, we understand the strategy.
I don't know.
What did you do?
I don't know all those answers. I don't even know how I walk.
Okay, how did you sell 500 tickets?
But I do. I walk, and I have no clue how I walk. I have not an idea.
The beauty of what he's saying is totally true, but the piece he may forget that he told you earlier is every day he had an outcome that he went after. He found a way to get that outcome.
Yes.
So every day he was doing 2 meetings in those days was our strategy, and booking 3. That was at minimum. And if you could do 3 meetings, fantastic. And by the way, if you kept booking 3, you eventually started doing 3 meetings. And when he got to those meetings, he showed up with every ounce of the soul. And when he was done with those meetings, he didn't walk off and just go off to something else. He nurtured those relationships by following up and making sure that relationship didn't end when he left the room. The people that call him change, they're having buyer's remorse, concerns, whatever the case may be. But if you've developed a relationship where you built an identity for them, the identity is, this is what I'm committed to. This is where I am. This is who I am. Identity is the strongest influencer of all. So he created an identity within himself. And the identity within himself says, this is who I am, and his words today would be, and this is what I'm showing up for. This is how I show up no matter what. This is the result I'm committed to no matter what. That became his identity. That's the difference between a goal. It's your identity that you never miss a mortgage payment. Right? And so he's not being harsh with you. It's your goal to make sure the team gets those elements. But what he's smart about, if you listen to this, he didn't try to make everything a must. He found out what the core musts were. And what we taught people to do, and we're going to review it today.
Run, set, sell.
Thank you. Say it again.
Run, set, sell.
Say it again.
Run, set, sell. Those are the only 3 things that my focus, reticular activator, would kind of zoom in on. Run, set, sell. And when I go through my journals, for years of journals, it was run, set, sell, run, set, sell, run, set, sell, run, set, sell. So run, set, sell were the major 3. How many meetings must I run? So I'd walk into a city, say how many tickets must I sell? And in order to sell that many tickets, how many meetings must I run? Right? Or how many appointments must I? So if I had a 2-ticket average, and I say I'm going to be there for 8 weeks, and everything had to be such mathematically lined up. When I say, okay, I'm going to be there for 8 weeks, I'm committed to selling 200 tickets, I have a 2-ticket average, that means I must run how many meetings? 100 meetings. And if there's a 30% cancellation ratio on those meetings, I must set how many? 130, right. So then I'd say, okay, well, how many weeks am I going to be here? So then I'd say, well, I'm going to be here for 8 weeks. So we look at it and go, well, it's really the first 6 or 7 weeks that you really set. So we mathematically break it all down. So, okay, I must set 130 meetings. I'm going to get 6 weeks to do it. And that means I must, set X, Y, Z. And it comes down to 2 to 3 meetings, whatever. It comes down definitively. Not like, well, kind of, sort of, in a way, but definitively. How many meetings must I set every single day in order to net this many, in order to sell this many, in order to ultimately, as a business, because again, it's not philanthropic, it's a business that you get an opportunity to run, you get an opportunity to be in business not by yourself, right? But with this whole thing, right? So you look and go, this is a business. Run, set, sell are the major 3 capacities. And you say how much income am I committed to earning, and then you just run the math backwards.
And it's sell, set, run is how you set it up. And that's how I sold my original 500 tickets to Phil Jim Brown, is when I taught to my team.
Yes.
But I taught a lot of people, but very few people ever do it. Right. And the people that did, and Dan, who was the person who kind of led him, who was his sales manager, emailed me yesterday, is still a dear friend years later, and his wife actually got hired instead of you. And she then became his wife by traveling on the road with him. But she is. You were flying at the same time, wasn't she? She got hired, and they had decided for some reason to hire her instead of you. I'm not quite sure why. But the point of the matter is, it's that simple. It's measuring where it is you want to end up. It's measuring what's going to be a step beyond that and what you got to sell. And it's measuring what's the fuel that feeds it. And if you aren't doing the fuel that feeds it, if you're not able to set, and then if you're not able to conduct those presentations, you're never going to sell. And if you're shitty, and he knows his numbers. He said he doesn't know, and he just told you those numbers. He says those are the numbers he was really running for. 200 was the run. And by the way, 200 is your run. And the numbers he just told you don't change. If you're going to book those 130 meetings, and you figure what that is, you found about a 20-week, it was roughly 3 a day, 6 times a week, but really he started getting momentum. He got referrals. So if I could book those 3 meetings, I could run those 2 meetings, guess what? He went from 200 to 400. Averaging 2, he started doing 2 meetings. He started selling 4 tickets a day. Now I sold 400 tickets, and then he did 100 tickets. Tell him how you do 100 tickets on some of them.
We just created it. The key is when you're out on the road, just invent. So when you're, wherever you're at, just invent stuff. Because when you invent things, it's really great. Because, you know, like if I don't invent things in my marriage right now, then what happens is our marriage is going to go very stale and very dry. So we invent things, you know, and all kinds of stuff. And some of your minds go, wow, what do you invent? You know? Different chapter. Different video production. But anyways. I mean, you know, the real thing is you know, you got to invent. So we're at the Madison Square Garden. We got a whole bunch of my relationships that were there, and I said, hey, there's an event that's taking place called the UPW. It's happening in Florida, and we're in New York at the Madison Square Garden, and in my brain was just like, hey, let's do something here. So we just pulled everybody together, all my relationships that were in New York at the event, the competitive edge event. We pulled them all together at the front of the stage during lunch. I mean, we just made it all up in the slide, just boom, like right in the moment. Let's pull them all up. I had them all right in front. I'm sitting on stage at the Madison Square Garden. I got a whole bunch of people, all the relationships that I brought into that. And then what we did is I had a couple pieces of testimonial people that came up on stage and said, oh, if you're not there, you know, in that program at UPW, you're not dumb, you're double dumb, you know. And people were like, double dumb, yeah, you know, they had this old stuff. And I really, like, you know, really let them on fire that, you know, they weren't dumb but double dumb, and they must be at that program. And, you know, so I had my allies with me. My brother-in-law, my allies helped me, you know, because I was the sharpest cat in the block, so I helped let these other guys come on and kind of help, you know, along the journey there. But we sold, you know, 100, and we, you know, we had the barriers of, you know, it was in Florida, so we had flights and hotels and, you know.
And it's really important to understand, those 100 tickets were people from New York that had to fly to Florida.
Right.
So it wasn't just selling 100 tickets, but what it was is everybody was put in state.
Right.
He had relationships with people that really loved Brett and loved me. They loved the results and they loved Brett. Brett built the relationship. I delivered the result for him. We partnered.
Right.
And so there they're in a state. They just had a taste of this experience, and he brought them up. And he got to share their testimony. And he got them, the boss talks, the relationships. But those relationships weren't first-time boss talks because he cultivated the relationships. So every time you go and you do a meeting and you sell 3 tickets or 4 tickets, those 3 or 4 people all have relationships if your relationship doesn't end that day.
Right.
And if you can really deliver for them, not wait to deliver for them, but follow up with them and keep them excited and keep them in that sense of possibility, keep them in the conversation about what they're committed to and moving them forward. They all have other people that they'll be inspiring too. So it's insane to always be starting over. And yet, you're still in a position where, what are you doing? You're doing those 3 things again. I'm still selling, I'm setting, I'm running. But at the beginning of the cycle, you start with, what is my must? What is the outcome? And what happens is, as you do things, the law of averages takes over, and you start getting better. Because anything you do for a period of time, even if you're shitty, even if you can't sell for squat, you're going to get a result. If I swing the bat, and I got the most intense pitcher in the world, and I can't swing for anything, I'm still going to hit a few. And there's a ratio. If you do it long enough, there's a ratio. And if you keep doing it, the ratio gets better. And you get better. So what you're seeing on the stage is 7 years as an FSR, and now 7 years in the businesses he's been involved with, of continuing to help people to transform. Of breaking against their belief systems, their limitations, their fears, their inertia, basically their story. And what he does is dissolve their story. And he does it with warmth, and he does it because he won't accept anything less. And it's the same thing that we do in the events, and it's the same thing those of you are most effective do when you're facing this. Let's let him go to lunch and everybody else too. Give him a big hand. All right. Announcements. By the way, if I were you, I'd be going writing down everything I pulled into the session. First thing you do when you sit down at lunch before you do anything else. Get when it's current, pull it back out of your head. I'm sure many of you wrote in your journal, but I try to pull it back out of my head immediately. Review your notes. Because you got about as much in that session as you're going to get. Because he can say things to you that I can't even say to you. If I say to it, then I'm lecturing. He's saying to it, you know he's lived it, he's done it, he's one of you. All right? Announcements.
Announcements. We are going to have lunch right now.
Okay, we're going to be back in this room. My watch says 3:05. We'll be back in this room at 4:15 sharp, ready to rock and roll. Let's go.